Okay, hang on. I'm almost there. Um, okay. Okay.
There she is.
Hi.
What's going on, Miss Peña? How are you?
I'm good. How are you? You can see me okay?
Yeah, you look great. You look great. Where are you?
I'm in my floral studio. This is my converted she shed.
Okay, I see you. A she shed, huh?
Yeah, this is my she shed. For my storage and my cooler and my tools and my little setup here. I got a
Oh
little
my goodness.
view of the mountains. I can see giant rock like Goat Mountain all through here. And the sun rises at this window, so I get to work here super early in the morning if I can.
Oh my goodness gracious. That sounds very blissful.
Yeah, I try.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm so excited that you're here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm glad I was able to make it because I was sick this week.
Yeah, talk to me. What was going on?
Honestly, I have no idea because I am, you know this. I'm a hermit
Yeah.
and I like my space and I stay in my space. And so I don't know how I would have gotten these germs from somebody, but I suddenly had the flu and it just knocked me on my butt. But as soon as it did, I got to work on hydrating myself and taking care of myself because I was trying to get ahead of it because I'm in wedding season, so I can't really
Yeah.
afford to be laid out for 2 or 3 days. Like I have too much to do.
No doubt, no doubt. And how's well, I'm glad that you're feeling better. You got over that real quick, by the way.
Yeah, considering it wasn't so much like sneezing, coughing, kind of cold. It was more like body aches and
Mm,
like that kind of flu. Since I
yeah.
had a fever, it was a whole thing. I was like, "Ooh, this is ugly. This is
Oh
ugly."
my goodness gracious. Well, you're
I
back at
know.
it. And you said that it's wedding season officially, huh? Like, so you're in the thick of it right now?
Yeah, I'm in the thick of it right now. Planning weddings and doing florals and stuff. And, we also do rentals. So we just got a lot of weddings on the books because we do all the different services.
Mm,
Um, so, I have next week, I have 3 weddings in
wow.
one weekend. Yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
Um, well, I mean, we're officially recording, which is going to be part of the video, and you know what I'm saying? Like, it's good
Yeah.
that you're talking about yourself already, and I've got so many questions, you feel me, about you, and I really want this to be an opportunity for your star to shine. You know,
Oh,
you're so
thank
bright,
you.
you feel me? Um,
Yeah.
so, you know, just in response to that that first question or that first response, I should say, is why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Diana? And you said that we have a bunch of weddings and all the services going on, so would love to hear from you what that means and who we are and what it is that we do, and we'll get right into it today.
So we is me and my multiple personalities.
That part right there. Yo, I swear, yesterday I told somebody the other day, because you know, I'm like you too, in that I mean, well, I got acronyms for everything. And so I say you got to protect your teams, knowing that I don't have a full team, but you know, that's your time, your energy, your attention, your money, and your space. You
Right.
feel me? And then
Yes, I do.
I'm my own best friend, homie. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So are you meeting Terrence? Are you meeting Terentius? Are you meeting Big T? You know what I'm saying? Like, who you kicking it with today? You feel me?
Right. Which mode are you in?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, no doubt.
that's not to say, and I do want to clarify that I don't do everything by myself. I
Right.
do have a seasonal team that comes in every season. Thank God.
Right.
For the most part, have the same group of people come in. So I'm fortunate enough at this point that I don't have to keep retraining people.
Mm, mm,
But in the beginning, because this is a seasonal business in the high desert, I did have to train people sort of over and over and over and over. And then I finally sort of got my little group and they're just like, they're down for the cause. So they're like, when season rolls through, love them because it's like they're looking forward to coming here to work with me. They have regular jobs and they come to the desert, to this part of the desert on the weekend, and it's like
Wow.
the highlight of their week, you know? So
Wow.
that's why they keep coming back because like we're having a good time and they're learning and we're like in different spaces all the time and I manage them up and I manage them out if I can. And
Mm.
so I've been lucky enough to where if one of them is leaving, they find me another person to take that place, you know?
So
So
yeah,
they
on
kind of
that.
facilitate me keeping the roster alive actually, which has been really cool. I wasn't expecting that.
So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pull up your website, and
Okay.
I definitely want the audience to see who and what we're talking about. But talk to us a little bit about your brand and what it is that you and your rockstar team of
Ah, yeah,
dedicated,
that
you know,
website is so
yeah.
cute.
Talk to
So
me.
I work on this website all the time. It's like a living, breathing thing. So the images that you see are like relatively new. I tried to update it so that what you're seeing is like less than a year old. So that image right there is from last September. So it's one season old. That was September 28th of last year at Rimrock Ranch. And I don't like I don't what can I say? That is like the quintessential Palo Verde kind of vibe. Like we want the desert is raw and sort of rugged and
Mm.
the I think the whole aesthetic is to honor that ruggedness. I mean, the logo has a snake on it. Some bleeding hearts, and it's actually designed to look like a tattoo shop and look a little bit rock and roll because that's my vibe and kind of where I come from, and I just wanted it to look like Diana.
I
The
love that.
aesthetic is a little bit dark compared to other sort of like wedding websites you might see because I sort of wanted to attract the audience that was like me, like a little bit um like rough around the edges, I want to say. You know what I mean? Like I wanted all the rock stars, I wanted all the bikers, I wanted
Uh,
the artists, I wanted like the burners, like that's what I wanted and it worked. That's who I got. That's who I get on a
no
regular basis.
doubt, no doubt. Well, for our audience that's tuning in, welcome to the second episode of Cactus Sessions from Black Cactus TV, where Black Cactus Co-working down in 29 Palms or downtown 29 Palms brings together a network of professionals, rock stars, incredible people who have found themselves either in the desert permanently or on a part-time basis in order to provide an opportunity to, both get to know them better as well as an opportunity to highlight them and what makes them so special. And, I'm super excited to introduce Dianna Peña from Palo
Peña.
Verde Party Rentals, one of my homies, one of the first people I will tell you that I met out here in the desert several
Is that
years ago.
right?
Oh
I didn't know
man,
that.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And we'll get there, but and man, yeah, we'll definitely get there. But just mindful of some of the descriptions that you just got done providing of what it takes to survive out here. And I think some of that is that resiliency, that rugged nature. You
Yeah.
know, the poet in me is always saying that the desert is full of deserters and those that have been deserted.
Yep.
And,
I've heard you say
so,
that. Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's always so interesting to me when you find this community of other people that are independent and rugged, resilient, loners almost, that then find themselves in community with one another,
Yep.
and I think that this is also like one of the last places that you want to be completely alone and or by yourself. It makes sense to have friends and collaborators and people that you can count and rely on. And, you know, Diana, I'm super proud to say that you are one of those people that, you know, I believe that I can count on out here in the desert. So, you know,
Thank
super excited to be
you.
chatting with you today.
Thank you.
No doubt, no doubt. So today's conversation is around setting the scene. And, you know, what we mean by that is, you know, what I have found, particularly, you know, again, if we're then mindful of the importance of community, you know, quick story, you know, I moved out here right before COVID, and I did COVID out here. And I think you did too. Is that right?
Mm.
Right? You know, and so, and this place certainly it was a little bit kind of a ghost town, a little bit spooky, scary for me at some points, you know, but I also found a ton of opportunity to really understand who I was as an individual. And, you know, I would say that that then also invited me the opportunity to figure out how to curate and find community. And so, you know, what I believe is really important for all of us is, you know, I think to Diana's whole point is to be able to curate and understand who your tribe is, and then also to be able to host and, you know, show them a good time, you know, what that means. And that's so much of what we try to do here at Black Cactus with, you know, our events and with the corporate retreats that we're focused on, and, you know, arguably the vibe that we're trying to create so that we can attract the right sort of people, the people that, you know, we love to engage with and we love to spend time with. And, you know, Diana, in my opinion, is a subject matter expert in what it means to be able to throw and host and curate events for her people. And so, you know, I would love for you to maybe talk to us a little bit about your journey around building up this rad brand that you have. And, you know, you talked a little bit about the tribe or the people that you like to work with, you know, and
Yeah.
so I'm hoping that maybe you can talk to us about why you decided to go the rock star route with your events versus maybe the traditional. I'm gonna say frou-frou. Is frou-frou the right word for weddings? You know, or is
I
that a little
don't,
different? You know what I'm
I
saying?
mean, I don't know. I was I guess I was looking for the people who would already kind of be attracted to this place. And the frou-frou people, like you say, don't want to dance in the dirt
Mm,
like we do here.
right.
I want to dance in the dirt.
Come on
So
now.
I was for people who were like me.
That part. That
Mhm.
part. So how did you, I mean, so talk, well, give us a little bit of an overview of your story. How long have you been in the desert? How did you arrive out here? And then how did
Um,
your baby start to, you know, form itself?
okay, so originally how I arrived out here, I took a cross-country motorcycle trip
Wow.
from New York. And that was like my first encounter with Joshua Tree. I had seen it on Instagram, obviously. Um, and I never intended to come all the way to California on that trip, but the journey brought me here nevertheless.
Mm,
And I just fell madly in love with it. You know, I could hear myself really think here. Um, and it took me so long to get across because I wasn't zooming across. For me, it was really about the journey, not the destination. So I would stop at these little towns and like just meet the people and stay for a few days because they were like, what do you need, can I accommodate you, and so I would stay, and next thing you know, 4 days later I'm like, I guess I should keep going. So it took me like 3.5 weeks to get to California, at which point I was out of time
yeah.
and I was out of money and I had to go back to New York. So I stored my motorcycle at a garage in LA, and then I flew back to New York and I picked up my dog and sold all my stuff and I brought
Wow.
my right back to California. Yeah. So it
Wow.
happened like that. Like it wasn't all the way planned. At least not for me, maybe from God, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't know that was gonna happen, but I was open to whatever was gonna happen. And so once the pandemic hit, so I spent a year in LA, and then once the pandemic hit, it was kind of in the beginning before we really had any information about what was really happening. Um, and we were being told it was going to be like a month or so. And I something about it, I had like the sixth sense where I was like, this is going to be way longer than a month. And so I just was like, I'm going back. And so I did. I rented a little house out here, and like I just kind of made it work. You know what I mean? At the
Wow.
time, we weren't doing any events or any weddings in the desert. I was actually bartending at the Red Dog Saloon.
Yeah, I
Very
didn't know that. Yeah.
yeah. I was one of the original bartenders. There was three of us. I was one of the original bartenders at the Red Dog. And at that point, we didn't have no one was out allowed to be indoors. They would just we had like a mobile bar blocking the double doors to get in. So
Oh,
you
that's right.
could
That's right.
drink from there, and then you could hang out outside. So we were like serving drinks from the mobile bar or whatever until we were allowed to like gather, again. Yeah.
So for anyone that doesn't know, there are, I mean, goodness, lots to tell in terms of the geography of the desert. But
Yeah.
the high desert, and I mentioned this during last week's call with Nadia, it's there are four towns that run along Highway 62, which is just north of the Palm Springs area, right? And we know Coachella's going down in the lower desert. And separating out the low des from the high des is the Joshua Tree National Park, and alongside, that major highway are four towns called Morongo Valley, Yucca Valley, Joshua Tree, and the city of 29 Palms. And just north on the other side of the highway is a small town called Pioneer Town, which, back in the day was a film set, and they used to film a bunch of old Western films. And it became sort of like a hotspot for bands that were traveling from LA to Vegas and vice versa, right? I think, particularly there are one venue that probably everybody knows. There's Pappy and Harriet's, which is a really famous music venue. And then there's this also a rad bar called Red Dog Saloon that, is also like a staple for a lot of us locals. And so I had no clue that you were bartending up there when and so I guess my question is that like when you first decided that maybe you were interested in events and event planning, or how did that sort of happen?
So that was also serendipitous because me being me, I pay attention to everything. I'm always listening. I'm always learning, and I'm a really curious person. But how it really happened was that my twin brother was getting married, and I'm a pretty skilled woodworker. And he asked me to build his wedding backdrop. He wanted like a giant hexagon. So it had to be this, 8 foot tall hexagon, 8 foot wide hexagon, and then we are going to mount florals on it. Um, and the plan was for me to build this hexagon, take it apart, drive to Texas, put it together, take it apart again, bring it back. And it was this labor of love, right? Because it's my brother's wedding. Um, but then sure enough, after the wedding, I was like, what the fuck am I gonna do with an 8 foot, hexagon,
Right, right,
And
right.
he was like, don't you live in a destination wedding spot? And it kind of went boom, and then the light bulb sort of went off in my head. Um, and I remember that spring, I went to visit my parents in Florida, who've been retired in Florida for any number of years now. I can't remember, but I booked too many days. It's one of those things where like you should probably be there for 4 or 5 days. Like it's a retirement community. Y'all don't really do anything but like eat, go to the pool, go to the hot tub. And I was there for like 12 days. So I was just flat out bored out of my skull.
Right.
And he had planted this seed in my head, and I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna sit down and do research on Joshua Tree and the overall wedding market in the area and see what the competition is, if any, because I'm local to Joshua Tree. I'm not coming in from LA or Palm Springs or Palm Desert or wherever. And I took the remaining like 8 spare days that I had, and I wrote a business plan. And so
Wow.
when I got back up here, I just hit the ground running.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't have idle time. I will always come up with something. I'm not like one of those people that is just gonna like sit and like I had to teach myself to like relax and enjoy. You know what I mean? I've
No
always been
doubt.
an overachiever. So yeah, if you give me 8 days, I'll like dream up some new thing to do for you.
Wow.
So that's what I did.
Well, and I mean, I'm learning so much about you. I mean, I think I knew, and so, to provide some more background on like us meeting, I think the first party that I met you at was in Yucca Valley.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember the name of the couple. I was up there with a mutual friend of ours, but and then I think what initially got me going with you or having a conversation around was, I had bought this old RV and I wanted to fix it up.
Huh?
And her name is Harriet the Chariot, and
You
Harriet.
still have it?
Man, she needs some love. She needs you. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't remember this conversation, Terrence.
hey, well, I don't know what you were drinking, you know what I'm saying? Like, how many glasses of wine, you feel me? But I say all that, and that I remember you were working on a school bus,
Uh-huh, I
right?
did. I did.
Yeah, and so like I'm learning all this stuff with you with like woodworking, and I knew about the motorcycle, and like, so how did all this like badass this like manifest? Like, how did that, is that just you, or is that like, how did all that, how did you become like that, would you say?
Um, well, in doing some research myself and figuring out myself, I understand that some of the women that in my lineage are kind of this way.
Mm, mm,
Um,
mm.
I've been told I'm a reincarnation of my great aunt Desi.
Ooh.
Um, so I do credit some of it to Desi, but I don't know. I just always been a curious person. Like when I was a little kid, if something wasn't working, I would take it apart
Mm.
and look on the inside and try to repair it. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like
Yeah.
I didn't have the kind of parents that were like, okay, I'll just go get you another one.
Mm, mm.
So we had to sort of figure those things out for ourselves. And I was just curious enough to like be a problem solver. And like I grew up in New York City. So there wasn't a lot that I didn't have exposure to. I always say I grew up too fast because we weren't sheltered. Even if we were sheltered at home, when you leave the house, you're in New York City.
Yeah.
So you learn a lot just by virtue of being a child in New York City. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm a
No,
tinkerer,
totally.
and the school bus conversion came from the cross country trip because I wanted to do it again, but I didn't want to do it on the back of a motorcycle for a second time.
Mm.
So I figured if I build a school bus, I can camp on the school bus and tow the bike with me and enjoy all these little twisty roads, and just like get to a place where I can camp and I'm comfortable and all of that. So that's where that came from. And I couldn't afford to just outright buy an RV. I had to DIY it.
Mm.
So I found a school bus instead and I converted it. And in the process, that's where I sort of like learned all of my woodworking skill. But
Really?
I also learned electrical and I also learned solar. So I started to build up all these tools in my arsenal that I still use kind of till this day. That
Wow.
school bus was like primo experience.
That was dope.
I highly recommend anybody who has time and money and the bandwidth to
Yeah.
like do something like that. It was really incredible.
Goodness gracious. So, I mean, man, that's like you're like a Renaissance woman,
Yes, I guess so. I've been
right?
told that before.
For
Yeah.
real, yeah. And I
Yeah.
mean, as I consider myself to be a Renaissance man,
Yeah.
and so I guess I'm curious and part of my entrepreneurial journey is similar in that, when I moved out here, this is sort of my second go round in the business. Well, Black Cactus is my second go around in the business world. I sort of found myself out here as a matter of just like helping some family with some stuff. And I was working remotely and ended up getting laid off after a couple of years, during with that job. And I was trying to figure out, what it is that I wanted to do. And I was like, well, I'm consulting. Maybe I'll like get an office, right? And I was really going to get something, kind of small. And the tinkerer in me was like, yo, like it's no co-working spaces around here. You know what I mean? Like what's going on with that? And so I did a little bit of research and some of it was formal research. Other times I was just asking people questions, and I was really trying to figure out, how do I set myself up for the most amount of success? And 2 years later, we're still kicking, moving into our third year, and I'm really, stoked about that. And so I guess my question for you is, knowing this diverse background of yours and having conducted that research, what did it tell you about what the opportunity was, related to starting Palo Verde and really targeting weddings as in this location?
There was this niche, and there was little competition. So I knew that I could get started and that I could get going really fast, so long as I was fully committed to doing it. And, I didn't know how it was going to turn out at all. But, I have this theory about when you bet on yourself, you don't fail, you can't lose. Because if it's up to you, and I'm not like one of those people that will disappoint myself. If I promise myself something, I'm gonna do it. Um, I didn't anticipate that it would be full time. I thought it would be a side hustle, but then once people started to kind of find me, it was like, oh, wait a minute, there's a person who's up here who's local. And at the time there was maybe two other companies that were also doing it, but we were offering sort of different things. And so people just started to find me, and then my books started to get booked and booked and booked, and then it snowballed into this big huge thing, and I was chasing this business that I didn't know was gonna get big so fast. And like in the first year I was like, oh my God, I'm so exhausted, I've never worked so hard in my whole life, you
Yeah.
know. And so I definitely had to get to a place where I reached equilibrium and I was designing what I wanted it to look like, as opposed to like chasing after this big snowball.
Mm,
But nevertheless, I was just committed to my clients, and I was committed to making sure that they had a good time throughout the process, regardless of what was happening on my side. Um, and I still feel that very much that way. I still work like it's day one. I still take it as seriously as I
I
did
know. I know.
when it was day one. Um, and I hold myself to a super high standard still. I
Woo!
won't work with anybody who don't,
Yeah.
actually. The
Yeah.
quickest way to get off my vendor list is to slack off. So, yeah, it was just one of those things where like I just knew that there was a niche that needed to be filled. I wasn't totally aware how big that niche was until I was already in it, though.
So, yeah, and
That
so and
makes
so
sense.
and you described, your
Mhm.
tribe a little bit. And so,
Yeah.
I'm encouraging you to maybe set the scene for us a little bit more. You talked to us a little bit about, the bikers, the burners, the rough around the edges,
Yeah.
versus
The artists.
yeah, right. Well, and I guess like, when we're then mindful of even your approach to planning weddings for those types of individuals versus the frou-frou, whatever sort of wedding, you know what I'm saying? Like, what have
Um,
you discovered? What have you uncovered about both yourself and your audience and why you do such a good job?
because the people who would gravitate towards me, like my clients, are people that would genuinely hang out with me, who I would genuinely hang out with.
That part. Yeah.
Like I said, I was looking for people who were like, the freaks and the weirdos and the artists and the rock stars and the bikers, and the chopper builders and the people who didn't want a traditional wedding. Like weddings in the desert don't typically include like a bouquet toss or a garter
Really
toss stuff. Absolutely not.
interesting.
Actually, it makes my skin crawl when I see a $350 bouquet flying through the air. I literally want to crawl out of my skin. But yeah, these aren't people who want the traditional weddings. These aren't people who want to go to church to do it with a priest,
Mm,
even
mm,
though there's nothing wrong with that. We have done it that way, even in the desert. But these aren't typically people who are following the rules, because otherwise they wouldn't come here.
mm,
And
mm.
I'm not a rule follower, which is why they love me.
So then let me ask you a question then. As someone,
Yeah.
I mean, one rule that I did hear from you is that you like to do things excellently. And
Yes.
so, I guess my question is for anyone that's watching this video that's interested in event planning, either for clients or throwing their own events, how would you recommend that they get started, throwing and planning an event that's maybe non-traditional or that doesn't follow any of the traditional rules?
Well, specific to the desert, it's actually a lot of really boring stuff. Like
Okay.
it's all the logistical nitty-gritty that doesn't show up on Instagram. You know what I mean? Like having, where's the electricity? Do we have enough lighting? Is the terrain flat enough for us to have a dance floor? Can people eat there? Where's the DJ gonna plug into into the wall for his speaker system and the lighting? Where's the bar gonna come from? How close are we? Does the bartender have to walk 25 paces to get some ice? It's literally things that nobody even really cares to discuss most of the time that are actually very boring, but crucial to having a successful event, you know?
Mm,
The best venues are the ones that set their vendors up for success. If you have to walk too far to get something, take the bar, for example, if you have to walk 250 paces to get ice, that's
mm,
kind of terrible. You know
mm,
what I mean? Like, because you need to be turning these things over quickly. So set your bartenders up for success. Give them enough refrigeration or enough coolers, because typically this is an outdoor space where
mm,
they don't have to walk 250 paces to refrigeration. It's right there, you
mm.
know? Or something like being mindful of the wind. It gets windy here a lot, sometimes up to 70 miles per hour, right?
Wow,
So
wow.
like all of our setups and our backdrops are way down so that even in the event of a wind gust, because it's not always a constant 70-mile-an-hour wind, but it might be a gust that comes through,
Mm,
nothing's falling over on anybody. The glassware isn't breaking. The flowers vases aren't falling onto the table and wetting everything.
mm.
It's literally the most boring things that make the best parties.
Well, so what I'm hearing is that, oh, sorry, were you
Mm.
gonna say something else?
No.
Oh, okay. It sounds like your process for research never really ends. And that,
Mm-mm.
no, huh?
It doesn't. Mm-mm.
Yeah,
It doesn't.
you feel me?
Well, for the most part, like I know how to do it regardless of the space, but each space is a little bit different, and I just tailor the experience to wherever
Wow.
I'm working. If there are venues that I'm not familiar with, before I agree to work with them, I walk the venue.
Right.
And if it ain't right, it ain't right. I respectfully decline the job, because
Yeah.
if I don't think it's going to be successful and I don't believe in it, I can't sell it. I can't sell anybody else on it.
Mm, mm. So maybe
Mhm.
I'm wondering, can you walk us through your first event gig? Like, so you're working at Red Dog
Yes.
and you get a gig, or talk to us about that.
Yeah, so I'll tell you, I was at Red Dog doing my thing, being my beautiful, effervescent, bubbly self. And this woman walks in who has a venue down in DHS.
Okay.
And I remember she was with her little daughter, and she was like, "Can our daughter sit here?" And I'm like, "I think it's okay if, because she's with you, just like put her on, because we were a restaurant too, not just a
Right,
bar."
right, right, right.
And then I talked to the little kid a little bit, and I get her like a lemonade, and I said something to the effect of, "Do you want me to water it down or put some soda in it so it's not full of sugar? Because that's a child who's literally going to lose it as soon as they walk out of here." You know, and she goes, "Oh my God, yes," right?
Yeah.
And so, whatever, we have our exchange and whatever. And then they're getting ready to go. And she says to me, "Hey, I opened a wedding venue and I would really love somebody like you down there." And I'm like, "Really?" She's like, "Yeah, because and she said, "You know why?" I said, "Why?" She goes, "Because you thought beyond just serving the drink. You thought about it being a 5-year-old who was going to get it, and you offered a solution to a problem that hadn't even occurred yet by watering it down so she's not like in a sugar surge and then a crash. You foresaw what was going to happen, and you provided me with a solution before it happened." And that's the kind of person I'm looking for. And I go, "It's funny you should say, because so like, again, magic. It was like serendipity, right?" So she goes, I need somebody who's gonna plan. I need somebody who's gonna, sort of execute the wedding, and I will pay for your training because I like you that
Mm,
much."
mm.
Boom. That's how it happened. Um, so she did. I went through that training and I got like a wedding planning certificate. And
Wow.
my first wedding was an absolute nightmare. I royally screwed it up. The bride cried the whole time. I thought, "Oh my God, I am never going to do this again. I don't know
Oh
what I was
no.
thinking. This was a horrible idea."
Oh
That was my
no.
first event. It was complete failure.
So, and man, and so what I want to ask is, and you're using this word magic, and I definitely recognize that there's some magic in it.
Yeah.
However, I think maybe you're not giving yourself enough credit in terms of the way that your brain works. And so, and I'll tell you this because, like, and well, I got a couple of things that I want to talk about. I did read your Voyage LA article where you said that you're not an artist, or you didn't think that you were an artist, and you started to believe that and understand that you were an artist. And
Yeah.
so, me in my journey as an artist, I come to understand that I'm a writer, right? And
Uh-huh.
I'm always like, I got words going through this brain all day long, you know what I'm saying? And I see things and I see the story, in the form of the words. And so I
Yeah.
guess my question is like, whatever scene that you're seeing, whether it's like Red Dog and a woman and a daughter drinking some lemonade, or a potential wedding venue, like, what's going on in that brain of yours where you're like, okay, like this movie's gonna happen like this, and like, how does that happen? What do you do?
I think the motivation behind that is really how I want the end user to feel when they walk away from me. I
Mm,
think I never want somebody to walk away being like, Diana didn't care, because I do. I care tremendously. And I have this understanding of how emotionally charged weddings are. I know that these women have been thinking about this day since they were a little girl. You know
mhm,
what I mean? Like most women, not everybody, but most women have been thinking about their wedding day since they were a child, right? Because we were conditioned to think like, I'm gonna find
man.
my Prince Charming, I'm gonna walk down the aisle, I'm gonna, do all of that stuff. So like for me, I understand how important it is that they feel that they're taken care of. And I tend to describe myself in like when I'm in wedding planner or any mode, really, what if I'm just a florist for that day, or if I'm just delivering rentals for that day, I'm in mama bear mode when I'm
Mm,
working. I'm
mm.
taking care of my clients. They are my babies. I care tremendously. And if you cross me, heads will roll.
Well, that
With
so
love, don't do it.
one of my favorite quotes, I think it was Maya Angelou, that said, "People don't always remember what you say, but they always make you
But how you feel.
right how you made them feel." You know what I'm saying? And again, like sometimes I'm mindful of over promising and under delivering.
Mm, yeah.
And I
Well, it's funny because I'm not saying that to them sort of in my words. I'm
totally,
doing it with my actions. Like
totally.
obviously you know I care because I'm now, 4 years in or however long it's been, has it been 4 years? Something like that. I I have sort of set that reputation up for myself. And but it's not like I just promise them to do my absolute best to make the process as stress less as possible.
Mm.
Um, I ask a lot of questions. I try to figure out what they think like and what their sort of reactions to things are going to be so I can get ahead of it. And if any problems arise the day of the wedding, they never find out about it.
So, and I love that. Thank you for that. And I think what's also interesting about your journey is that you get to, particularly through this lens of like the type of artist that you are and how you are showing up as a leader, it sounds as though you get to combine different aspects of your passions. You talked a little bit about the woodworking and how that then turns maybe into installations at the
Yep.
event, right? You
Yep.
get to put on
Mhm.
your inventor hat maybe a little bit to then be able to
Mhm.
plan, what the flow looks like.
Mhm.
Now I want you to talk a little bit more about the florist and how did that all come about and then being integrated into the work that you do. You love flowers. What's up with that?
I do. I always loved flowers. I've loved flowers since I was a little kid. And honestly, I would build these big backdrops and I just wanted to dress my own backdrops. Like
Okay.
that's really where it came from. It was like, I'm making all this really cool stuff. Oh, sorry, I think I'm getting a FedEx delivery. Did he leave it? Did he leave it? Yes, he
There
left
you
it. You know
go.
what? that's a client's package for a wedding that's happening.
Oh, okay. I
I
see you
let
out
them
here.
ship stuff to me so they don't have to fly with, an extra suitcase worth of stuff.
Nice.
I let them send it here and then I prep everything for them.
Nice.
Anyway, I just wanted to dress my own backdrops because I felt like I'm building all of this stuff and it was sort of the flowers are like the jewelry on, that finishes off your outfit. You ever have a really bitchin' outfit and you're like, oh, I need this beaded necklace to go with my dashiki or whatever. I'd seen you in a dashiki. So I'm gonna put this on, and then I'm gonna layer it with this jacket. It's like an outfit.
Right.
So I was only providing one part of the outfit, but in my head, I could see it with all the accessories. And so I was like, me being me, I took a class on how to price florals for profitability because at the end of the day, I'm still running a business.
Sure.
And then I went to Mexico City to learn how to actually arrange flowers. Before I
Wow.
started any of it, I dove into the education part of it so that when I did it right because I don't take half measures. It's
Right.
not in the way for me. So that's kind of how it happened. I just wanted to like finish the outfit that I put together. You know what I mean?
Um,
And
wow. And I guess, and that then is included in the brand that you've developed and even how it shows up in the logo. And I love the authenticity of you just being able to express and explore these different aspects of yourself.
it's
Um,
a lot of fun.
right? You feel
Yeah.
me? And so, for the other people out there that are maybe interested in following your example, um, I guess like my next question is around like the team that you've been curating and developing and working with over the past,
Yeah.
like, how are they extensions of you and how do you all show up for each other in order to, show up for your clients?
Um, That's so funny because it was really hard to get to this point. I think you've heard me say before, staffing is the hardest part of the desert because of
Right,
working in the desert because A, we're seasonal and people need to work full time all year round, but there's parts of the year where there are no events to be at.
right.
And I only need one full-time assistant.
Okay.
So I can't staff 5 people all year round. I can staff one person all year round and then have the seasonal employees. So I found that the military housewives were where to go.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So after a while, I just picked up that knowledge from experience because they are coming in with their husbands on the military base. They're here for a year, sometimes two, and they need something to do. They're not really wanting to sit home all day while the husband is at work, or sometimes not here at all.
Right,
Um,
right.
so I found if I tapped into that pool of, you know, potential employees, I would find someone who was like A, available, and B, willing to do it on a seasonal basis
Mhm,
without the added pressure of having to employ these people full time all year round because it's just not something that I can really provide. Um,
mhm,
and so for me, the way it happened was a little bit more specific because I found one of those fantastic, military wives, and she was just like this brilliant kid. Like she was smart, she took it seriously. She knew I wasn't messing around and I was really serious about it. And she sort of followed my example and
mhm,
she was a quick study. So little by little, I was sort of able to like offload some of my responsibility to her and delegate some of the workload to her. And she was learning and she was growing. And I just kept being like, all right, do you want to learn more? And she's like, yeah. And do you want to learn more? And then next thing you know, she's taking meetings, like I call them compatibility calls, right?
mhm.
Because you need to find out if I'm right for you, and I want to find out if you're right for me. Because if
Right.
we're not compatible, we're not gonna be able to work together, especially not on the most important day of your life. So it has to work for both of us. We have to like have that sort of like heart connection in that very first meeting. So she would sit in on meetings with me and she learned and learned and learned, and the next thing you know, she's generating her own revenue. So
Wow.
yeah, so now her salary is paying itself and she's costing me no money. Imagine that.
Wow.
Fantastic. Um, And that, right? That's the whole point. And then she brought in a couple of her friends because she was like, oh my God, I have this job and I love it. And Diana and these weddings and we're doing flowers and we're doing this and we're doing that. And so she, she'd hype up her friends. And next thing you know, her friend came on and her friend was working weddings with us. And then that one got another friend and that friend was working wedding with us. So now those are the girls that work for me.
Wow.
That particular assistant, her nickname is Ladybug. um, Ladybug moved back to the East Coast and she ended up with my encouragement starting her own wedding planning business and now she's
Wow.
doing New Hampshire.
How does that feel?
It feels fantastic because I just think she's so brilliant and she's so good at it. Um had she stayed in California, I would have been like, I don't think so. You staying with me. I'll never let you go. You will die here.
Yeah.
But she was going to New Hampshire. So I was like, listen, and she had just had a baby. And I was like, listen, I think I genuinely think that you should do this for yourself. And she was like, I don't know at first. And then she thought about it. And like a few months later, she was like, you know what? Do you still think I should do this? Like, and I was like, yeah, I'll tell you exactly how to start. And I
Nice.
sort of gave her the blueprint I thought that might work best for her. And so when she got there, she hit the ground running, just like me, like just went and did her thing. I'm so fucking proud of her. She's so rad. Um, and so yeah, that's kind of how it happened for me. Again, part of it was magic, part of it was serendipity, part of it was God, like whatever you want to call it. Just everything sort of lining up in a row. I'm not gonna say I don't have any of the credit because I am definitely, you know, working for the universe to conspire with me. This isn't happening by accident by any means,
Totally.
but when it comes to like the staff and stuff like that, I do feel very fortunate to have found my crew. It wasn't easy. It took me a
Mm.
long time to get there now. Never let them go. Never, ever.
All right, so my next question is, what is a behind the scenes reality about events or your events that people don't always get a chance to see?
Um, I'm always covered in dust.
Okay, all right.
I always have a change of clothes because I'm in the background of your photos, so I don't want to stay covered in dust. I will change into an outfit. Um, I sometimes will go an entire event without having a single thing to eat.
Yeah.
Um, I break my nails all the time. Injure my fingers all of the time. Um, and a lot of times, like the logistical stuff that happens are problems that I solve that clients never find out. I'll give you an example. There was a pizza vendor who didn't have pizza trays.
Okay, all
And
right.
then when I said, "Where's your pizza trays?" He said, "Well, the bride's mom said she was going to bring them." And I was like, "Okay." So I go to the bride's mom, "Did you bring pizza trays?" She goes, "No." So guess who had to go get pizza? I had to go send one of my girls down to Walmart to go get trays or something like it.
Right, right,
Um,
right.
there was another vendor who was a bar vendor who didn't consider bringing lighting, even though we were going to be spending part of the night at night outdoors and didn't consider that the guests would need to see the bar. So
Mm,
guess who has lighting just in case
right.
in the van at all times. So what they don't know is that I built up this arsenal of backup stuff in case someone else drops the ball. I have backup trash cans, I have backup lighting, I have backup trays. In my wedding toolkit, I have a Tide pen in case you stain your dress. I also have chalk. I have safety pins. I have a steamer. I have an iron. I have a Valium. I have I have snacks. I have water. Like I am sort of like the provider of that space for every single person that's there, every guest, every vendor, my staff, and everybody that's in the venue. And then simultaneously, I have to have the coolest head.
That part.
I have to be the most calm person in the room. Um, and like I have to have the most sort of positive demeanor, even if I'm exhausted and I've had nothing to eat.
Mm.
That's the part that they don't see. That's the part that you don't see on Instagram is that the night before the wedding, I didn't sleep because even though I'm super thorough, I'm going through my mental checklist. Did I do this? Did I do that? Did I do that? Did I do that? Even if I knew I did it, I don't. You think the brides don't sleep? Your girl don't sleep.
So how do you maintain that level of composure when things don't go very well?
Because if I do a bad job, it's the only thing about the wedding that my client is going to remember.
Mm, 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 mm.
So it's not an option for me.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I
Wow.
have to I have to knock it out of the park every single time. Because whether or not I get a review out of it, because I do get reviews some of the time, but not most of the time.
Really?
Yeah, I don't actually, people aren't great about giving you a review even when they loved you. Um, so, but that doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is they walk away because what happens is that they ruminate on the experience after the fact, right?
Sure,
The
sure.
day goes by what feels like 15 seconds, right? And then after the fact, they're like looking through their welcome book and the photos that people have taken, the little Polaroids that they stick in the book and the little notes that they leave behind. And that's sort of how they relive the day. Um, and I never want them to relive the day being like, man, I really wish Dianna would have done this instead of that, or oh, that damn planner, she wasn't good enough. Or I never want that to be what they walk away feeling like when it comes to me.
How
Is that
far?
the question?
Yeah, no, that was good. That was good. So my guess practically like how far in advance should you start planning an event?
Sometimes a year, sometimes a year and a half.
Oh wow. And based off of
But
like
way
this,
far in advance, yeah.
yeah, how big of an event is that typically?
They're usually the sweet spot is around 100 people.
Okay.
Every so often we have weddings that are 200 people. I try to stay away from 300-person events because the venues here don't love it and can't really accommodate it all that easily. Um so there a lot of them have like one requirements for like 150 and below, some 200 and below. Um but it's really more so that we just need time to get to know each other, right? So like after we do our compatibility calls and we decide we want to work together, we kind of start to date. It's like a relationship, right? And
Mm-hmm.
in that year, I'm getting to know them super well, and the better I know them, the better I can do my job. In the beginning, we go over budget, we go over all of their ideas, we go over sort of like most importantly, besides budget, of course, is like how do they want the day to feel? What do they want their
Mm-hmm.
guests to walk away feeling like, right? And the more I get to know them, the better sort of equipped I am to like make those kinds of decisions for them on their behalf. And I don't even, and I'm the one that talks to the vendors sort of back and forth, and I don't even introduce them to any vendor that I don't think is exactly what they're looking for.
Right. Now, let me
Mhm.
ask you another question. I mean, and this is mostly personal, but are there, like, I know you throw a lot of events and produce events for customers. Are there any events that you're interested in producing just for you and your tribe? Like, is that ever something that you thought about?
Um, you know what? I love to eat,
Okay.
and if I had more time, I would probably host a supper club.
Okay.
That's what I would do
Yeah.
because, and like we have actually some vendors who are starting to do that kind of thing now, and I'm really grateful for it. But of course, they're doing it at the busiest times of year for me because when I'm busy, everybody else is busy. Because when I'm in season, everybody else is in season. So of course, it's happening when I'm swamped and I'm
Right.
like, 60 to 80-hour work weeks and stuff. Um, but I would host a supper club. I don't want to give you all of my ideas though,
No,
but
no doubt. Well,
I'm a New Yorker, and there's certain things that we don't have by virtue of being in the desert that I would love to recreate here in the
yeah,
desert. You
yeah.
want a New York experience? Come to this supper club. Like that.
Oh my goodness. Nah, that's
That's the kind of stuff I would do for myself. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, no doubt,
Mhm.
no doubt, no doubt. My goodness gracious. I mean, I think you hit all of my questions.
Did I?
I guess, What's something? Let me see. I guess well, here we'll finish with this one. For someone that's listening who wants to turn their creativity into a real business, what's
Mm.
one truth you wish someone had told you at the beginning of your journey?
Ah, this is a good question. Very, very good, Torrentius. One of the things I wish that somebody would have told me is that a large part of being the captain of the ship is actually not doing the creative work at all. The
Mm,
part that nobody tells you is like, you got to pay the bills. You got to do the payroll. You have to do certain kinds of administrative work that you can't delegate to your assistants. And so, if you really love the art part of it, you have to make peace with the fact that there's going to be parts of your experience that have absolutely nothing to do with making the art.
so,
Um, you have to market the art, you have to make it profitable, you have to like keep the lights on, you got to pay the staff. Nobody really prepares you for that part, and I think being able to work for yourself is highly romanticized, but it is the hardest thing I have ever done. Would I change it? No.
yeah.
N- Absolutely not. I have like a profound sense of peace because of it. But it also is a huge responsibility, and you have to be as equally right-brained as you are left-brained
Sure.
in order to make a creative business work. So if you can't do the admin stuff, you're gonna have a hard time. And I'm just being totally honest. If you can't do it, or you can't find some way for somebody to help you do it or help you figure it out, just make the art for the sake of the art because you love the art.
That part right
Don't
there.
do it for the money. Just do it for the love and feed your soul however you need to feed your soul. Otherwise, and like go get some other job that pays the bills.
Oh my goodness.
And
What
that's just real.
That's dope, and I appreciate you saying that. Just mindful of our time, and I'd like to respect, your time as well. I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up, but my question is for the people listening at home. What's the best way to get in touch with you? The best way to work with you? The best way to learn more about you and to engage with you?
Okay, so my website is paloverdepartyrentals.com, or you can find us on Instagram at Palo Verde Parties. Um, and I'm not super good at the DMs, but it might take me 3 or 4 days to get to the DMs, but I will eventually. And I'm just gonna tell you to shoot me an email anyway. So go to the website and hit the contact page, and you'll be able to get in touch with us through there. That's the easiest way to do it.
And are you taking on new clients?
Yes, for 20, we are currently booking spring of 2026
Okay.
right now. Books are closed for 2025 at this point. We're done.
Yep.
But spring of 2026 is now open, and beyond. So we're looking to get married in the desert
Hey,
in
hit Miss,
2026.
hit up Miss Peña.
Yeah, hit up Miss Peña and decide on your budget, please, before you call me. Decide on your budget. I don't know where y'all read that it only costs $30,000 to get married in the desert. It's a lie. I'm here to tell you that's not true. Take that article and burn it. It's wrong.
Oh, wow.